SKOL Vikings, let's win this game.
Let's talk Vikings. J.J. McCarthy taking over the reins as the starting quarterback with a decent amount of pressure, but also a really good supporting cast and excellent coaching staff to see him out there at training camp. As part of SportsCenter's 50 States in 50 Days, Elle Duncan was in Minnesota yesterday, caught up with J.J. McCarthy.
Have you at any point had your, oh my goodness, I am the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings moment yet?
You know, I really haven't. You know, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, it just matters about, you know, taking that responsibility, and, you know, the coaches and the players put so much trust in me, and just making sure I do my job on a daily basis to, you know, help this team succeed in any way I can.
All right, you know this by now. There's a lot of cliches that are thrown around when it comes to football. One of them is building trust with your receivers. But JJ, what does that actually look like apart from just learning the kind of routes that they want?
You know, it's building the trust on the field, but most importantly off the field. You know, developing those relationships, those intimate relationships that, you know, lead to success on the field. And, you know, just getting with them after practice, playing games with them, and, you know, just sitting with them at lunch. All the little things where you could just bond and grow off the field.
Certainly sounds promising early this offseason for J.J. Minnesota, but there are still some questions surrounding his top two wideouts. So let's start there. Adam, what's the latest on Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison?
Well, Laura, there's no question that these are two of the most talented wide receivers in the league and might just be the best tandem in the league. But there are questions about both. Justin Jefferson has some hamstring tightness and some irritation, and the Vikings want to be smart. It wouldn't be a surprise if we didn't see him in the preseason. They're going to be careful. They don't think it's a problem for the opener, but he's had some hamstring issues before. And Jordan Addison is facing potential discipline from the National Football League for a DUI that occurred last year. So we don't know if and when that discipline will occur, but it's very possible that he could be facing a baseline suspension of 3 games as mandated by the collective bargaining agreement. Again, we think Jefferson will be perfectly okay by the time the regular season rolls around. There's a question as to when Addison could be facing potential discipline, but there are 2 questions that hang over the great Vikings wide receiver tandem.
Yeah, RC, can this Vikings defense carry the load early on to help JJ in the offense if they do struggle a little bit?
Obviously, this Vikings defense is extremely explosive. They just re-signed or extended Josh Metellus, who is kind of that Swiss Army knife that they use all over what Brian Flores likes to do with that simulated blitz, 2 safety, high shell scheme. But you watched as the year went on last year, there were some teams that started to pick up on the nuances of what Brian Flores did from a disguise to attack and execution standpoint. And so there are going to have to be some new wrinkles. You're going to have to find different ways to get pressure on the quarterback and find ways to create turnovers as well. Early on in the season, when this defense was playing at a high clip, they were turning the football over and they were getting hits on the quarterback. How do they find a way to do that this year when there's again more film on the way that they will start plays and then what they will execute post snap? J.J. McCarthy has an opportunity to walk into a situation that's ready-made for a young player to play well. And we could also find that ACL tear or that tear of the meniscus last year was something that allowed him to watch from the sideline, see what Sam Darnold did well in Kevin O'Connell's offense, and execute extremely early where Brian Flores' defense won't need to carry this team.
Yeah, and RC, when I was with Rex Ryan with the Jets and we had Mark Sanchez, obviously he was a rookie. We know JJ's a second-year player, but it was all about what you talked about, a great defense, Brian Flores, and then we were able to run the ball. And I think early on, my suspicion is Kevin O'Connell, who ironically was on injured reserve on those Jet teams, is going to approach it in a very similar way. From a standpoint, if you look last year, they were 5th in the league in yards per attempt, and they were able to get the ball down the field, as Adam alluded to 2 great receivers. I would think early on they'll lean on the run game, Aaron Jones, that really good offensive line, and then build that downfield passing game gradually. So, again, J.J. McCarthy, not a rookie, but basically like a redshirt freshman. Give him time to get comfortable, much the way we did with Sanchez, and let that talent build and confidence build during the season.
We spent an awful lot of time this offseason talking about what the Bears have done to fortify the interior part of their offensive line. The Minnesota Vikings have done the very same thing.
Yeah.
They signed Ryan Kelly and Will Freeze away from Indianapolis. They drafted Donovan Jackson. They've shored up the interior part of their offensive line, and they're going to count on running the football with Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones and protecting J.J. McCarthy to help this offense go. But those are some big changes up front. It's not just the Bears who have put a lot of resources into their offensive line. The Vikings have as well, just hasn't generated quite as much conversation.
Just when we think the Vikings are going to slow down their moves, they hit us with another surprise, a second signing in 2 days. We're talking about a team that doesn't just sit back and wait for opportunities to fall into their lap. They're out there actively shaping their future. At the heart of all these moves is our newest addition, but hold that thought, because context matters big time here. In the past few days, General Manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has been putting in work, adding depth to the roster. Picture this, right after inking safety Gervarius Owens on Wednesday, the Vikings didn't waste a second and brought in a new player for the offensive line on Thursday. We're talking about veteran lineman Matt Nelson, the newest member of the Purple Squad. But why's this a big deal right now? Because, my friends, the preseason is just around the corner. So, who's Matt Nelson, you might ask? For die-hard football fans who keep tabs on the NFC North, Nelson might ring a bell. He spent 4 seasons with the Detroit Lions organization, our rivals, before suiting up for the New York Giants last season. Now he's rocking the purple, and here's a key detail. Nelson's played in 43 NFL games, including 14 as a starter, mostly in the 2021 season when the Lions, well, weren't exactly at their peak. So, why should we care? Let's talk possibilities. Even though Pro Football Focus hasn't spotlighted him in recent years, Nelson's skills on the field are no secret. At 29 years old, he's got a legit shot, not just to make the final roster, but maybe even to carve out a spot in the starting lineup if he plays his cards right in training camp. Even an injury on the offensive line could open doors for him. Now, to put things in perspective, the Vikings' offensive line is stacked with talent like Christian Darrisaw and Ryan Kelly, and they've recently added guys like Will Frias and Donovan Jackson. All of them have the potential to form a dominant unit, especially if they stay healthy. One final word on our new signing. Beyond his skills on the field, Nelson brings a special connection. He went to the University of Iowa alongside Vikings tight end TJ Hawkinson. Having that pre-existing chemistry could be a huge plus. And with that, as we're sitting here trying to wrap our heads around all these moves and what they mean for our Purple Squad, one thing's clear, this addition isn't just about bringing in another player. It's about strategy, it's about depth, and most importantly, it's about our relentless pursuit of greatness. On to the next, because what's coming up is straight up thrilling. Who would have thought just 1 week of training camp could reveal so much about the team? The Vikings training camp is in full swing, and my friends, we've already had some deliciously unexpected twists. To our massive delight, certain players are starting to shine, proving that surprises are a huge part of football. Let's kick things off with Jeff Okudah. Remember him? A highly touted prospect, picked 3rd overall by the Detroit Lions. With his ideal size and athleticism, he had all the makings of one of the league's top cornerbacks. But injuries like a torn Achilles derailed his path big time. Okudah was more of a puzzle than a promise kept. This year, though, the Vikings took a chance on him, signing him to a modest $2.35 million deal. And now, in training camp, he's not just looking good, he's looking great, turning heads as a rock-solid CB3 behind only Byron Murphy Jr. and Isaiah Rodgers. Could Minnesota's coaching staff unlock his full potential in what feels like his last shot? Next up, we can't overlook Christian Darrisaw's return. Unlike Okudah, Darrisaw doesn't need to be discovered or unlocked. He just needs to get back on the field. And this week, he did just that, joining the first-team drills after recovering from a serious knee injury. Shockingly, he avoided the physically unable to perform list and started working with the team right away. With more than 5 weeks until the season kicks off, the chances of Darrisaw being ready for Week 1 are looking better by the day, which would be a massive boost for J.J. McCarthy's development, giving him more time and confidence in his first start against the Chicago Bears. Last but definitely not least, let's talk about Dallas Turner's explosion. This guy, a first-round pick in last year's draft, is showing some serious consistency. Every single day, he's making headlines with his standout plays. The added strength is translating directly to big-time plays on the field, and he's racking up highlight after highlight. While Turner's not a starter yet, he's quickly becoming a must-have in the rotation, with tons of room to grow this year. And with these pleasant surprises, the Vikings are proving that training camp is about way more than just sweating it out. It's about discoveries, it's about plot twists, and above all, it's about hope and renewal. For the fans and for us, the expectations are climbing, and these developments are only fueling the hype for what's next. After jaw-dropping revelations and savvy roster moves, We're watching a Vikings team that's shaping up to be more than just competitive. It's gearing up to dominate. From Jeff Okudah rediscovering himself in purple and gold, to Christian Darrisaw's promising comeback, to Dallas Turner's meteoric rise, there's no denying that this training camp delivered more than just practice. It gave us a glimpse of a bright future. So, let's keep that energy going. Share this video, drop a comment, and hit that subscribe button for all the latest Vikings updates. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go!